Good morning. All right. Going to chat about circadian rhythm and so excited. Have been coming in and I thought, okay, I'm going to find somebody who is much more attuned in all of this than me. So, hello, friend.
Hello.
Oh my goodness. I love it. Love
Okay.
it.
So good to see you.
Yes. All right. So, for you guys that are joining, we are going to talk about circadian rhythm. So, if you've been following me, and so many of you guys have watched me get out and do my sunrise routine in the morning, and you have so many questions, and I would say I know this much. And I was like, "Ugh, I need somebody else that maybe knows this much." So I was like, oh, I'm going to reach out to my friend Christi, who this is what her jam has been now for a while. And so I'll share a little bit and then I'll turn it over to her for to answer some questions as I know. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the comments here, and I will kind of try to keep track. But there's a lot of questions that I have that I can't wait to go over. But I have known Christi. I know we were. I was trying to think of like how long. I think I really discovered you when you were doing Periscope. Like how long ago is that?
That's dating us, Susan. That was a while ago.
Right. I know.
Yeah.
So, but we both are in the Young Living community, which draws just so many people that are interested in holistic health and different ways, right? That we can nurture our bodies. And so I just love that commonality. But I've just been able to now learn a little bit more from you and that you got into the circadian rhythm stuff. And I'm just like, okay, so excited. But tell me a little bit more because I didn't realize that you were a health coach for 20 years. What is that? Tell me more.
Yeah. When I was in all my 20s, I had terrible belly stuff. I mean, it was diagnosed as IBS, and then they said, well, there's really nothing we can do. Take all these meds and like really bad, like Vicodin with codeine and all these things. And
Mhm.
I struggled through the whole medical establishment with that. And finally, I just decided one day, I'm like, I'm just going to go to this school in New York, and they're all about holistic health. And I have no idea what that was. I was not holistic at all. I mean, I grew up going to Arby's and Taco Bell and eating the crappiest of the
See,
crappiest food. Like, yeah, like, no, we didn't know, right? Like, my
right.
mom's on board now. She's like, I'm so sorry. I said, how would we have known, right?
Mhm.
So, no wonder my belly was a mess. But anyway, I ended up going to the school and I just sat there learning about food. And it was the first time I'd ever heard, too, that things that you don't eat can affect your health. And what they called it primary food, like your relationships, your job. Are you having fun? Are you moving your body, right? All these things that now is just so normal. But back then it was like,
Mm-mm.
what do you mean that affects my health? And so
Yeah.
I just had this light bulb moment. I said, oh my gosh, if I am, like this double major, double minor, 4.0 GPA, like all these things, and I don't know any of this is crazy. Like I have to bring this to other women. So
Yeah.
I quit my corporate job the day after I graduated from that and started working with women, mostly with digestive stuff, perfectionist type A's like me who also had high stress and
Yeah.
sugar cravings and, all that good stuff. So I did that that was about 10 years, where I did that full time before I found Young Living.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. I
yeah.
guess I didn't know that part of your story. So that is so good to know. That sounds like I would love to go to a school like that. That sounds like, I mean, those are things that we all need to know about, right? And it's so
Yeah.
fascinating that now information is so much more, I think, readily available and people, get educated and then they're willing to share that with others, which is kind of, I, I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about not only here on Instagram, but just in community in general. Like we want to help people on a broader scale without necessarily getting something back for ourselves. And
Yeah.
there's so much beauty in that kind of attitude that just, I mean, I know that that's your philosophy. And so it's just beautiful to see,
Yeah.
right? That.
I
So,
think I think women when we learn something, I mean maybe it's just I feel like this is my pattern is I learn something, my mind gets blown, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to tell everybody. That's just kind of been, and I've had probably 3 moments in my life, in my career, where I learned something so mind blowing that I was like, I can't just keep this to me. And
Right.
so the first was the holistic health. The second was, what do you mean all the stuff in my house is
Right.
toxic? And it's like, right, that was the second one. And then the third one was circadian rhythm. Because I
Yeah.
didn't get into circadian rhythm to bring this to the masses. I was like, I just need to get rid of my hot flashes. Like, I need to help with perimenopause. But then I learned it and I was like, oh, I cannot in good faith just
Yeah.
sit on this. It's just not,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
fair.
It's so crazy. Okay. Well, so I have a lot of questions. And so I know that if I have questions that they will answer, hopefully for many people here. So let's talk about that because I think it kind of gets the light bulbs going when we talk about the hormone aspect with circadian rhythm and and the perimenopause, in menopause, post menopause, which is me. So can I give us a little bit of a nutshell why this is so critical for us to pay attention to helping support our circadian rhythm in a way that Western medicine doesn't, right? And
Yeah.
so if you aren't intentionally focused on this, you're gonna miss, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you share a little bit on that?
Yeah. And what I love about this piece of it is, as a recovering type A and perfectionist, I imagine the women who follow you we're all very well educated in health, almost to a detriment. Right now, we know so
Right.
much that it can become so overwhelming. Now we're trying to micromanage everything. And so with hormones, I know I used to feel like, oh, they're so complicated. There's so many different hormones, and then they interact with the thyroid and the adrenals and all this, and I just kind of, for many years, I was like, I just don't even know. It's
Right.
too much. And so when I learned about circadian health, I'm like, but I don't need to know all of that. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean I don't need to do things. Right? I don't need to eat a certain way and move and sleep and all that. But I don't have to figure out necessarily how these all work, because the master clock in my brain knows how to do it, right? So we have this master clock in our brain. It's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It kind of runs the show. It knows what's supposed to happen. Like with you, Susan, you teach women about taking care of their homes, right? And so you have, I imagine, you have your
Right.
schedule, right? So it's like, okay, on Mondays I do this. In the mornings I strip the beds and then I put my laundry in, and you have this flow to your day. So that somebody could feel like taking care of their home is very complicated, but if you have a schedule and you know how to do things, you can just, it's not a big deal.
Right.
So the master clock in your brain knows what the schedule should be. It knows, okay, when I go out for sunrise, if I'm going out for sunrise and I have naked eyeballs, meaning no glasses, no contacts, and I am out there at sunrise, doesn't matter what I'm doing. I could be sitting down, I could be feeding the chickens, I could be going for a walk, whatever it is. The light that's coming in through my eyes then goes to the master clock in my brain, and it does a couple of things. One, it tells it what time it is. So I always tell women, like, think about, well, I'll ask you this. How many times have you looked at a clock today? Whether it's like a clock on your
Right.
phone, a clock on the computer, clock on, the car. I mean, I've done it at least 10 times today already.
Right.
Right? And I'm doing that because I'm like, where do I need to be? What do I need to be doing? So I monitor my whole day based on, like, what time is it? Do I need to hop on the Zoom with Susan? Do I need to, do this or that? So the suprachiasmatic nucleus knows what time to do all the things. When you're out at sunrise, one of the things that is happening is the light is going through and it's telling that clock in your brain, okay, it's sunrise. So you need to start turning on the daytime tasks.
Right.
And so what that looks like for hormones is you've got this HPA axis. So the light's going from your hypothalamus, which is the H, to the pituitary, which is the P, and then it can go down to the adrenals. It can go down then to your thyroid. It goes down to your ovaries. For men, it goes down to their testes. It goes to the parathyroid. Like, it basically goes from the hypothalamus to the pituitary, and then it runs through all the different organs of our endocrine system,
Mhm.
right? So all the hormonal organs, and it's communicating to them, time to turn on this, time to create this. So it's starting all the daytime tasks. And our hormones are run a lot by time, and they're really dictated by light. So instead of us saying, okay, like I'm never telling my thyroid, like, okay, thyroid, it's time to
Right.
get going, or okay, adrenals, like this is what time it is. Like I'm managing other stuff in my life, but my brain is responsible for that. And
Hmm.
the only way that it knows to turn on certain hormones, turn off certain hormones, start different processes is by the light, because that's the only way it
What
knows what time it is.
time it is.
Yes.
Yeah. That's so good. And I think when I learned that piece, well, I'll back it up just a little bit because I read a book I think it was a year and a half ago. I had grabbed it and I think it's called The Sun Heals. I'll find it here really quick.
Yeah.
But and I kind of knew a lot of the concepts, right? And
Hmm.
how we've been duped for many years to
Yeah.
be programmed to think that the sun is the bad guy, right? It is not doing anything beneficial for our body,
Hmm.
and we have to, layer up to block it, right? And that book for me was like, whoa, right? And then it was just kind of slowly peeling back layers of an onion to really understand we have this amazing free thing
Yes.
available to us.
Yes.
However, right, we want to have all the contraptions that where we don't have to necessarily
Yeah.
access. And we'll talk a little bit more about the grounding aspect. But I mean, even me, I know, like, what is grounding? You go out barefoot, right? Out in soil, grass,
Hmm.
untreated, and so you can help me on this one because I've heard untreated concrete is
Hmm.
fine, but not asphalt,
Hmm.
right? And so, but we see all these things like you can have grounding sheets, have a grounding mat in your house, and all, and so I totally I bought them because I was like, okay, well, maybe I can get extra. And I don't have to really go outside to, do that. I didn't really see any different. I returned them. And
Yeah.
it's just kind of like this. I think as people, we want the easy button rather than just doing how
Yes.
nature presented itself. I mean,
Yes.
do you find that?
Do you know how many people are trying to biohack their way into being able
Yeah,
to just stay inside but get the benefits of sunlight? I'm
I
just like,
know.
oh my gosh, we have to, it's like, but can I stay inside and just have the. I actually just saw somebody who I really love on Instagram. She's like, oh, sunlight is so wonderful. And it helps to create serotonin. So open your blinds. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not going to work. Like, sure, opening your blinds is going to be better for your mood than sitting in a dark cave, but you
Right.
need to be actually outside getting the light into your eyeballs at a certain time of day so that you can turn tryptophan into serotonin. But if you're behind a window that is
Mhm.
designed, all our windows now are designed to block UV light, you're not getting that benefit. So it's like but everyone's like, can I just stay inside and
Yeah.
bring it all inside? And I've never tried grounding sheets or grounding mats because it just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And I've heard too many people who are sensitive to EMFs that they might have dirty electricity in their
Yeah.
outlets, that maybe the outlets aren't grounded properly, and they can react poorly. So I'm like, you know what, my whole goal is to try and get outside more.
Right.
So if I'm going to biohack anything, it's going to be my resistance
Right.
to getting outside,
Yes.
especially in the winter.
Yes,
So
find ways to make that part of your
yeah,
rhythm, right? And
yeah.
so, and yeah. Okay, so let's chat about the sunrise thing because even you and I were messaging this morning. So I go out at sunrise. And so for those watching, I'm going to mention an app. It's called Circadian. I think it's called the Circadian app. If you
Mhm.
comment sun here, I'm going to send you a link to the app because it's free. There
Mhm.
is some paid options, but you can get a lot of
Yeah.
information just from the free one. But it will tell you what time your actual sunrise is. But then we're going to talk about this other thing, which may be new to you, UVA rays, right? UV rays, right? And so, but so I go out at sunrise. I don't always make it back outside for UVA rays. So
Yeah.
explain the difference. And if I was going to be asking you, okay, which one do I really need to prioritize? I want to hear from you what it is that I need to prioritize.
Okay. Well, I would probably ask you, are you working on anything specific with your health?
Well, for me, I have a history of depression, right?
Hmm.
Have not really struggled with that in years, but I know that sunlight, right, is
Yeah.
going to feed those the pieces that keep me happier.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is part of it. I
Okay.
enjoy the solitude outside, so I can get that at either,
Yep.
at either time. And so, and my hormones, honestly, because I've been doing this sitting outside at sunrise for a year and a half as a postmenopausal person, not on any type of prescription hormone, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
My hormones are fairly normal and good.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, so that's kind of
Okay.
where I'm at. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the cool thing about sunlight, I think you can get benefit any time of the day, right? It's healing medicine, like you said, for free all the time. But there are certain times that are just they pop. They're just
Okay.
magical, right? So I think people are catching on to sunrise, right? So if we think about the sky, sunrise is when that the sun first starts to peek up over the horizon, right? So even if you can't see the
Yeah.
sun, it's okay as long as it starts to peek up. And so that's when sunrise technically happens. So we already talked about the fact that it communicates through the hypothalamus pituitary axis to all the different things. It's also going to kind of kickstart pregnenolone, right, which is the precursor to all of our sex hormones, right, which is probably why your hormones are great because you're sitting out there and it's kicking off like, okay, let's get estrogen, let's get progesterone, let's get testosterone all kicked off. And it's also kind of helping to monitor, okay, if we have to put our attention towards something, are we going to create these sex hormones? Or are we noticing that Susan's a little stressed today, her cortisol is up, and we're going to kind of deal more with like the stress response? So being out there at sunset, really the body's kind of deciding, is prioritizing, am I prioritizing production of stress hormones, am I or sex hormones, or kind of a stress response?
Okay.
The thing that also for women too with sunrise that I found most important was it's really helping to modulate the right cortisol rise. And so what I was doing before is I would get up in the morning and I'd immediately look at my phone, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, and sometimes I was trying to do somatic work because I was really stressed and I was trying to calm, or whatever I was doing on my phone, but that bright screen was literally shooting my cortisol up. So being outside instead and just getting up and going right outside for sunrise, that helps that cortisol rise happen really slowly and gently. And that keeps anxiety down, it keeps stress down, which can also help with keeping, depression away as well. So I love sunrise for all of that. And I also think too, as we start we're getting closer to spring, it's really important that we have sunrise to lay the foundation when we can start getting, our skin out and stuff too, to lay the foundation for when we get UVB later in the day so we don't
Right.
burn. Right.
Yes.
So sunrise is really great for all of that. So we got the sun, it's coming up for sunrise. We're out there, we're getting all that magic. And then when it gets to 30 degrees up in the sky, which for me is when it gets to the second telephone wire, basically, or the top of our trees, that's when UVA rise starts. And they call it UVA rise because it's the first time where ultraviolet A light appears. So at sunrise, the cool thing, like what triggers all that stuff to happen that we talked about with sunrise, like the HPA axis, the cortisol, that's triggered by the blue light that appears at sunrise.
Okay.
So that's literally, it's like first time of the day that blue light appears, and that is what kicks off our circadian rhythm for the day and all those cool things that are happening. Then when UVA light appears, ultraviolet A appears, when that sun is about 30 degrees in the sky, that light coming in through our naked eyeballs is what triggers a whole bunch of other things. And
Okay. Yeah.
you're gonna love this,
Yes.
okay? So you were talking about depression. So ultraviolet A is basically when it goes through to your eyeballs, it's exciting these different amino acids and you don't need to know all of
Right.
this of how it works, right? But like there's one amino acid called tryptophan. When the light comes in and it basically starts to turn tryptophan into serotonin. And serotonin is that like feel good, right? Like I'm feeling really calm, I'm feeling really happy. So that is why when women go out at UVA rise, they notice a change in mood. And I noticed that within, I would say, the first couple of days of
Wow.
doing it.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
like, oh, because I was just kind of like
Hmm.
lethargic. I didn't really have much motivation at the time, and I was dealing with anxiety and some low grade depression, and I really did notice a difference in that from that UVA rise.
Okay.
And what's cool about that is it goes from tryptophan to serotonin, but then the serotonin at night gets converted to melatonin. So
Oh,
when you're out at UVA rise, it's actually kind of
gotcha.
setting your sleep clock for later that night. And
Um,
then at night, once you're done with the nighttime, the melatonin turns back into tryptophan and the whole cycle starts over
yeah.
again. So it's this gorgeous, gorgeous cycle.
Okay.
Um, there's another amino acid, tyrosine, which gets turned into dopamine. So, we're always going to our phone to try
Right.
and
To
like
get
get
that
those
hit.
dopamine hits. Yeah, or like to try to feel energized and good. And you can actually just be out there at UVA rise, and that will
Yeah.
happen. And so norepinephrine and epinephrine too, those are more amino acids that those get translated. All these things start to happen that boost your energy. They start making you feel more motivated. It's really cool what happens mood wise
Yeah.
at UVA rise.
Uh-huh.
And then for people, women too, who are worried about thyroid or metabolism or weight gain, like a lot of different pathways are activated at UVA rise for
Okay.
that too. So
Wow.
it's a really, if I always, so when I think about you and I think about your
Yeah.
schedule, right? I know you walk 10,000 steps
Yeah.
a day. So what I would want you to do is get out for like 20 minutes at
Yeah.
UVA rise and do
Yeah.
your walk then. And
That
so
makes
you,
sense.
so if we're thinking about, oh wait, what time is that again? Like when do I get out? So I'll keep it real
Yeah.
simple. You you can look on the
Yeah.
app will tell you, but what I just think is, okay, if sunrise for me right now is 6:45 in the morning, for me, UVA rise is 7:50. So it's like a little bit more than an hour after sunrise.
Right.
So if I go out for sunrise, I come in, I make my breakfast, I eat my breakfast, it's usually time to go back out for UVA rise.
Hmm.
So
And
in the
it's a
summer,
window of time, right? I mean, there's like it's not like you have to be out there right at that second, right? I mean, it's like a window where you're still going to get the benefits of that, right?
yeah, so UVA starts at 10 degrees and then it keeps going until the sun is,
Okay.
almost ready to set. But the early morning time is really important. So
For the
all these things
triggering.
we were just talking about. Yeah. So like in the first hour or so of UVA rise is when I
Gotcha.
would say.
Okay.
So yeah, you don't have to be like right out there at the moment, but if you can get out there in that first hour or
Yeah.
so and be out for about 15 to 20 minutes,
Okay, good. That's good
it's
to
going
know.
to be really
15 to
helpful.
20 minutes. Okay. And I know Christy and I chatted, so um and I'll have her expand on this, but I don't want people to be watching and like freaking out, being like, "Oh my gosh, and one more thing I have to do and add to my checklist." And so I'll let you just kind of expand on that because
Mm.
that's not my heart either, is to give somebody one more thing to do or like try to like figure it out because friends just go
Mm.
outside. But anyway, so
Yes.
so you can expand on that a little bit to just calm everybody's nerves. Like you don't have to have some big checklist of, oh my gosh, I need to remember what's being done at one time. You don't need to remember any of that. So,
Yeah, I feel like a lot of women look at this as I have to do this all at
right,
once. I have to do this right.
right,
I need to think of all the possible ways that I'm not doing it right and then fix myself so I am doing it
right.
right. And it becomes, yeah, it becomes like a burdensome. Oh,
Yeah,
I got to go out. Okay, I got
yeah,
sunrise. Oh, shoot. No. And setting alarms and all this stuff. And I mean, for me, I did sunrise for a long time before I even knew UVA rise was a thing.
yeah,
And even now, it's like for a while I didn't do UVA rise and I noticed the difference. And I was like, okay, it's winter. So I can't eat, I'm not really cool with eating breakfast outside right
right.
now when it's freezing and there's 3 feet of snow on the ground, right? So I'm like, I have to adjust my routine. Like, what makes sense? How do I want to get outside about an hour after sunrise? So I was just like, okay, well, I'm making my little mocktail. So I'll just take, instead of sitting on my biomat,
Yep.
warm and cozy, which is preferable, but
Yes.
I'm like, I need that time. I feel better with that time. So I'm like, I just
Yes.
take my drink outside. I stand there because everything's covered in snow and I just drink my drink.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, instead of feeding the chickens at sunrise, I'll just go out at UVA rise, and that'll extend my time out a couple more minutes.
Hmm.
And in the wintertime, I have found myself, I just go out for little spurts now. I mean, in the summer, I'll just
Yeah.
lounge out there for like I like go out at sunrise and I just stay out
Stay.
there. But now it's like, if I go to pee, I go outside for like 60 seconds and then I come back inside. And every time I pee, I go outside for 60 seconds. So
Okay.
over the course of a day, that's like that's a lot of
Yeah.
time outside, even just with those those little breaks.
I love it.
Um, because
Yeah.
it's cold. It's really
Right.
cold. So
Right.
And
Okay,
there's
I have a
magic,
couple.
there's healing to that too. The cold is very
Yes.
healing.
A
So
couple questions I don't want to forget. Somebody says, "What do you do in the winter months?" And I think I mean I know the answer, but I would love for you. I'm not sure what parameters she's when she's saying, "What do you do in the winter months?" I mean, you do the same. There is absolutely no difference other than our emotion and thought process around it being colder outside,
yeah,
right? I
I
mean, the
did a
benefit
little.
is there.
The benefit is there, and our bodies are biologically designed to be outside all the time. So, what I tell women is start. You want to, if you like, so next fall, just start prepping your body. As it gets colder, I just don't throw on jackets right away anymore. Last winter, I was in ice rinks with my boys playing hockey, and I literally had just a sweatshirt on. You can kind of prime your body to get used to the cold. If you're already like, well, I'm in February, that doesn't really help me. It's cold. What I do in the morning is I get out. When I go outside in the morning, I have on just my little jammy shorts and my jammy camisole. And I will throw this sweater robe. I live in this thing. I like throw this on, but I go out in bare feet, my bare legs, and I just stand out there for as long as I can until
Yeah.
if I start to shiver, I go inside. And so my goal is short spurts. If I'm going to be out longer, like if I'm going to sit there drinking my mocktail, I bundle up.
Yeah.
I put on my coat, I put on my gloves, my hat, whatever I need to be outside and be comfortable. But then I also, sometimes I'm just like, I'm going to embrace the
Yes.
cold. Like I'm just going to go out for a little bit, and it's okay to feel cold. I
Yes.
think we're so scared of it, but sometimes you go out and even barefoot in the snow, it's like, how long can I make it before
Yep.
my body's like, yeah, I'm too cold. It becomes like a little game. And you are helping your mitochondria.
Yes.
You're helping charge your energy when you get a little
Right.
bit cold. And so
Right.
the more we can get outside of this, it has to be 65 to 75 degrees at all times and get more in tune with it, the more the body starts to
Right.
adapt.
That shock factor. I mean, that's why people do cold plunges. That uncomfortable state that the body gets put in, that's a positive thing, friends. It really is. It's
Yeah.
helpful for the body. And, I think, just doing little bits at a time. There's some days I'm outside and I can be out barefoot, and maybe I'm out there 15 minutes, and other mornings I'm like, ooh, no, 2 minutes, we're good. We're
Yeah.
going inside. And it's
Yeah.
okay, right? It doesn't matter.
It
So
is. I think people think, oh, I have to be outside for half an hour every day. It's like some days it's a open up the door and kind of poke your head out like and be like, okay, that's good because it's pouring rain, right? And some days it's like I'm driving in the car, I'm just going to open the sunroof. And then some days it's like, oh, it's so nice, I'm just going to sit out here for a while. And
yeah.
so I think we have to not beat ourselves up
Yes.
over what we think it needs to look like. It's like if you only get out for 30 seconds, it's better than
Better
nothing.
than nothing.
And if you
Yes.
did that every day consistently, and in the quantum world we just have this phrase that like it's like the littlest changes done consistently create drastic results.
That is
And
so
so
true.
I think a lot of women don't start because they're like, well, I'm gonna have to sit outside and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It's like just
It
start with
seems
something.
impossible, right? So,
Yeah.
and I think there was a question about where I live. Lily Way of Life says, where I live, it's where I live, I rarely, I think, see the sunlight. The sunrise is kind of late. That's when we need to leave the house for work and start our day. So she says, mission impossible in a way. Well, hopefully, just listening to kind of what we shared, you don't feel like it's mission impossible because you can capture these little windows of time, even getting out of your car, walking into work or
Hmm.
school. For me, I wear glasses. So when I go for my walk outside, I am normally in a routine that I, know where I'm walking, and I don't wear my glasses. I have my glasses with me, but I know I'm going to get the benefit if I'm not wearing my glasses. So just keep that in mind. Any opportunity that you're outside is, is an
Hmm.
opportunity for that. So,
There's always, every situation is figure outable. And so if you're in a situation where you're, say, way north and there's less light, then you can take advantage of the healing power of nighttime and sleep and darkness and melatonin, right? So because nature never takes something away from us without giving us something just as healing in return. So
mhm.
yeah, in the summer it's much easier to leverage the sunlight, but then in winter it's the flip side. It's like, so how do I block all this artificial light at night? How do I sleep longer, right? Like, how can I go to bed really early and sleep long and let my body do all this repair? So there's always ways, like you said. if somebody's driving around, she's like, pop open the
Yeah.
window,
Yeah.
just even if you just sometimes like I'll be driving and there's sunset and my kids know I'll just pull over, open up the window, like get it in
Yeah.
for just a minute,
Yeah.
is so huge. And if
Yeah.
you're driving or in, if you're in a subway and it's sunrise, then as soon as you get out, just stop for a second before you go in the building. As
Right.
once you start being aware, I was thinking back to my 20s. I thought, did I ever really even see the sun? Because you go from the inside to your car, and then the windows all block it, right? And then I basically would walk into my work building. And that was the only sun I got because I come out and it'd be dark at night, and then I'm inside. So even just these little changes help the body.
Right.
Yeah.
I noticed that I was sleeping better when I started doing this. I mean, there's just so many shifts that happen. So, but I want
Yeah.
to talk about blue light and on all of that in just a second, but there are a few questions. And so,
Okay.
my friend Amy did ask, if I could only do sunrise or UVA rise, which would be more beneficial for gut health, specifically IBS and that.
I would definitely say the UVA rise because of we talked about the tryptophan turning into serotonin, and that helps to kind of move the intestines, the peristalsis, and it's also very calming. So a lot of people who have constipation or digestive issues, that UVA rise is really
Mhm.
important. But I'm going to challenge Amy on if that she can only do one or the other. Amy, I'm gonna challenge you. Could you even do 30 seconds of
Yeah.
sunrise? Like if you had to choose a bigger chunk, I would say UVA rise, but it is going to be beneficial too, just to pop out for a quick little bit of sunrise
Yeah,
if you
I
can.
think I'm going to change my routine. Maybe, I mean, some days I have plenty of time, but on some mornings I don't. But even if I just go out for like 2 to 3 minutes at sunrise and then get back out later, I think that's what I'm going to shoot for to kind of shift things. But
Yeah.
um, okay, Lily Way of Life has some more. She said she's just talking about where she lives, that the sun doesn't come out. Where we live is rain most of the days of the year. Most days are gray. It's a very different
Yeah.
situation. Can you talk about how even on the cloudy days, these
Yeah.
rays are available?
Yeah.
So,
It doesn't matter if it's cloudy, rainy, snowy, foggy, you are still getting the benefit of the sun. Now, obviously, if you're looking to get the benefit of like a suntan
right.
with UVB light later, that's not really going to be available as much. But the benefits that we're talking about are there no matter what it's like. You don't have to see the sun ever. Even if the sun is behind a mountain or you're in a city and it's behind a building, that the light moves around. And even if you are outside on the foggiest, cloudiest of days, it's going to be so much brighter than it will inside if you turn on all the lights and have all the blinds open. And what we need during the daytime is we need that brightness. We need that lux because that is what helps us know, oh, it's daytime. And we also need like the cool thing about sunlight is it has all the colors of the rainbow that we can see. And then it also has the UV that we can't see. And it also has the infrared that we can't see. And that is so powerful. And that's what's getting blocked by the windows, which is why we
Right.
need to get outside.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, I mean, for mood wise, it might not be as fun on a
Yeah.
non-sunny day, but
Right,
medicinally,
exactly. It's not. I mean,
you're
I live
just
in
as good.
Seattle. Like there's
Yeah.
been many mornings that I have to go sit out under, my covered area because it's pouring rain, but I still
Yeah.
go out because I know it's beneficial, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. And where do you live, Christy? Tell people where you live because it
Yeah.
is not like we're just doing this because we live in sunny California or Arizona or wherever. So
Actually,
where are you?
I was gonna propose that I'm gonna do a quick outside trip
Okay.
just so I can show you guys. Hopefully, I won't lose connection. So I live north of Boston. So it's cold and we have about 3 feet of snow right now outside. I'll show you guys. But it doesn't. Yeah. So it's a four season circadian lifestyle around here.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
right.
take my slippers off. My dog is here. Actually, I'm not going to let him outside because he doesn't like to come back inside. Our pets need to be outside too. They need the light. So this is my little patch of snow that I
Cleared out
ground
for
on, but
you. Yes,
you
I
can
love it.
see it's very
Yeah.
snowy. So
Yes.
yeah, so we can chat. Well, I'll chat from out here for a sec.
Yeah. Yes, yes. So, so we've talked about sunrise and UVA rise, right? So let's talk about how to help our bodies adjust for the nighttime using blue light blockers and what that looks like. I don't think we're going to have time to get into light bulbs, but you have a ton of freebies, so you could touch on that. But I think that this area is the weakest area for me, is dealing with the blue light,
Mhm.
especially in the evening. So maybe kind of walk us through some tips or the things that you have learned and put into practice, or maybe like the first couple things that maybe you would suggest for somebody, because that knows that, oh, blue light, that's my next thing to kind of conquer.
Yeah, so the blue light that we're getting when I'm outside, I'm getting blue light, right? But it's balanced out by the red
Yeah.
and the infrared and all those things. So this is good. The blue light is what literally helps the brain tell time. It's also what's helping the cortisol rise during the day, which gives us energy and all that stuff. The problem is, well, not the problem. The thing is, once the sun sets, all the blue light disappears out here. So if I'm outside after sunset, there's no blue light available. So that is what tells the body, okay, it's time to stop making cortisol. We need to start getting ready to produce melatonin. We're ending daytime tasks now. There's no more blue light, so we're going to start nighttime mode. We're going to get into nighttime mode. That's what's supposed to happen. The problem is most people, what they do is they're going to go inside, turn on all the lights, right? And then they're still on screens, right? Like we're
Right.
still scrolling our phones, we're still watching TV, we're still on our computers and all of that. And all of those light bulbs and all those screens emit insane amounts of blue light. So when the brain gets the message from the eyeballs that, oh, there's still blue light, the brain then thinks it's still daytime because that's how it's telling time. And so the brain is now not going to start all of those nighttime tasks,
Mhm.
and it's going to keep cortisol going. And this is going to affect all sorts of things, not just sleep, but this affects our metabolism. This
Yeah.
affects our mood. It makes us very anxious and stressed. Um, and so it can also cause really serious health repercussions. It can cause cancer, the blue
Yeah.
light at night. It can cause obesity. It can cause diabetes, because when we're on our screens, that blue light can make our blood sugar go up, even if we're not eating anything. So, sorry, I'm just making my way back to
Nope,
my
that's
office
okay.
here.
You're good.
It's so nice out there. um, so, what we want to do, if we can, is try to block the blue light, ideally coming onto our skin and into our eyes, but most importantly through our eyes. And it's really not that hard. It's actually like the easiest thing in the world. So I tell people just to get a pair of, so I'm wearing my yellow blue blockers because
Okay.
I'm looking at a screen and it's daytime. So I don't want to block all the blue
Right.
light because then I'll get really tired and sleepy. But at night, I have the magnetized ones. So I just put on my orange lenses after sunset. And these are going to block all the blue light. So there's not going to be any blue light coming into my eyes. So even though I have to be on
Right.
screens for work, or, my husband needs the lights on because he's blind. So he's like, we need to turn on the lights. The blue light's not getting into my brain. So my
Mhm.
brain can start to say, okay, now we're starting to get into nighttime. So I tell women, if you're just going to get one thing, just buy a pair. I actually love these. These are the Midwest red light therapies. They're like under 40 bucks. Just get a pair of orange ones and just put those on at night.
Yeah.
It can be as simple as that. And I'll show you, like, when we're like, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have time. That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
That's that's what you do. Now, and we try and keep like screens a little dimmer and lights a little dimmer and all that. But if you want to spend less than $40 and take 2 seconds to do something, this is
Yeah.
monumental. Yeah.
Yeah. I know
Yeah.
since I wear glasses, I got a pair that I can fit over, so that
Nice.
when I'm at my computer, but the problem is I have not been very consistent in wearing
Mm.
them. So this is my challenge to myself, to make sure, because they're in the little nightstand drawer down here, actually, because I get up in the morning too. So
Hmm.
that's my last question.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna, if you comment son, Monty Mom 5, if you comment son here, you'll get an automated response and it will share the links that Christy has to a bunch of freebies. And she talks about her blue light glasses in there. You'll get some links there so you can
Yeah.
do that. But
The blue light blockers overwhelmed me
yeah,
at first. I'll admit, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a million of them. And my
right.
husband had gotten a pack of, a 20 pack from Amazon years ago, the clear ones. And I was like, these don't really
Yeah.
work. I got very overwhelmed. So I finally kind of broke it down for myself. I was like, okay, I need to make this easy for women because if I'm overwhelmed, everyone else is going to be
Right.
overwhelmed. So I was just like, so I just created a little guide and it just goes through like, what is blue light? Why do we want to block it? And then it just offers not a million
Yeah.
options, but just like these we all love. My kids wear these too. They're very lightweight. They're so inexpensive. So it's these. I did put the Viva Rays because, but
Yes.
don't spend $200 on blue blockers if it's your first pair.
Yeah.
You buy the cheap ones first. You see, am I going to use these? What do I notice? And then you can
Upgrade
buy more
from there.
expensive ones.
Right. Yeah.
So it has links to all of them, and it has links to the clip-ons and the fit-overs if you wear glasses too, and a Amazon pair if you just like, I just want to order off Amazon.
Yeah.
And there's codes in there too if you just to try and save people money. So
Good.
the blue
Good.
light blocker guide, if you're curious about these, that's the one to take a peek at.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a personal question because so I tend to get up several hours before sunrise.
Hmm.
So if I were doing that, when I do that, I do try to keep the lights minimal in my house. I have not changed bulbs out or anything like that. But my question to you is, do I wear blue light blockers when I've gotten up in the morning before it's sunrise, or is that not really necessary
So if we think about sunrise, what happens at sunrise is that blue light appears for the first time, right? So we want to save the blue light for
for that?
sunrise. So if
Okay.
you're getting up and turning on lights, most light bulbs,
Yeah.
especially the LED ones, they're just full of blue light. It's kind of like having screens everywhere. So yes, I would put on
Okay.
definitely at least oranges.
Yes.
Some in the morning, sometimes I wear my reds because the reds are like I don't know. Actually, I would just do
Okay.
oranges to keep it simple, just like you would do at
Yes.
night. And so if I were to get up, like if we go on ski trips and we get up early, I put these on. Um, and then when sunrise happens, I take them off and I go outside. So that will be
Okay.
helpful just because then you're getting your first dose of blue light is actually at
At
sunrise.
sunrise. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And coming
okay.
from the sun versus the
Yes.
lights in the house.
Right. Okay. And
Yeah.
so one last thing as we wrap up, because I mean, literally, we could sit here. I could continue talking to you because I find this so fascinating and I love it. But
We'll have to do it again.
I
We'll do it
know.
again.
So, but you have, if people are watching and they still are like, okay, I know I can get out at sunrise or I can maybe get out at UVA rate, rise and do that. But I loved you shared, you have a little, what is it? The Sunrise Club. Tell the people about this little Sunrise Club that they could purchase. It's like a little course, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I was not a sunrise person, as you know. I was the person who went to bed at like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I had to wake up at 8 or 9. And I just thought you guys were all so weird for getting up so early. I was just like, I was so impressed and I admired everyone who
Yeah.
did it. And I'm like, that's not going to be me. And then when I just started doing it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And so I kind of I had a lot of people who said the same thing. I want to do this, but I'm not like you. And I'm like, I was just like you like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So I created this little 7-day course and it's designed to help people who they want to get up for sunrise, but they're like, yeah, just like they're not motivated or they feel like it's
Mhm.
going to be a big deal. And it basically walks you through the day one, you go out for 1 minute and it just like a little bit at a time over 7 days with the education about why. And it's
Wow.
short, like each video is less than 10 minutes. But what I found is that there have been so many women who've gone through this course now. And every time they go through it, they're like, they become sunrise
Yeah.
people. Even a friend of mine who she bought the course and I was scared because I was like, she's gonna hate this. Like I work with her in Young Living. She was always like, if you're gonna have a Zoom before 10 o'clock, I will never be on it because I'm sleeping till 10. I was so nervous and I didn't even check in with her. But then I got her little checklist at the end of her 7 days.
Mhm.
She's like, I did it. And then she's like, and then a year later, after she'd gone through more of my circadian course, she's like, everything has shifted. She's like, I get up every morning for sunrise. I'm going to bed now because I'm wearing the blue blockers. My
Yeah.
thyroid has changed. My vitamin D levels have changed. All these things were shifting for her. And it was just that little 7 day course
Yeah.
that kicked it all off. So
Yeah. And I love
I think
that
it's a
it's so
nice, easy
reasonable
way.
because it's like, what is like $17 for
17.
that little,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so,
I'm tired of women getting gouged for
yeah,
information like this.
yeah,
I think it should be everywhere. I think it should be in the schools. I think it should be every woman should know how to reset her circadian
yeah.
rhythm. Whether she chooses to do it or not is her own choice, but I think
Right.
it's so important and like I just wanted it to be available
Yeah.
for everybody. So
Yeah. Somebody had asked if we're taking questions. I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes here. If you have a question, to go ahead and put it in the comment. I was trying to catch some as they came through, but I can't reply to people on these lives. I'm still learning, even though I've done a handful. I'm still learning. So
I
I think
some
information is so powerful, and so I love that you think the same way that I do, right? We want to add value and give value, but obviously, right, there is an aspect of people having ownership too when
yeah,
they have to contribute something to get information and do that walking it through and playing it out. So
yes.
yeah. Okay.
Somebody asked
I'm
what time do you guys
oh
wake up?
yeah. Well, go ahead. You answer and then I'll answer.
um, I actually, that shifts throughout the year because since I'm so far north, my sunrise shifts a lot. So in the summer, it can get as early as 4:50, 4:45 in the morning. And then the winter, it can get as late as 7:45. So right now, what I do, I set my heater. I don't know if you guys can hear. I have a really old house. So the heater is like clank, clank, bang, bang. So I set it to start heating up at about 6:30, which is about 20 minutes before sunrise. And so I just kind of I wake up according to sunrise. And what I've noticed is that, and Susan, you're probably the same, I find that I just naturally now wake up before sunrise. So my body just kind of, I'm lucky. I don't have to go to a job in an office where I have to show up at a certain
Right.
time. So I can kind of shift it with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but so mine is always changing a little bit. I
Yeah.
sleep later in the winter and get up earlier in the summer.
Mine, I would say I am not that way. I stay consistent all the time, but I'm the same as you, right? I live in Seattle. It's pretty far north. So in the summer, our sunrise is at 4:45 in the morning. Sometimes I'm not up at 4:45
Mhm.
in the
Yeah,
summertime, but for the most part, I usually am up between 5 and 5:30, and that's where I run into, right? Okay, I want to do things in that time period in the morning, but
yeah,
just remembering then to block the blue light is
yeah.
key. So, but I want to just say the other piece of that, I will tell you, um, going to bed earlier, because that's, I mean, honestly, if you think about the earth, why the earth is created for us to not be being up, staying up till 10, 11, midnight.
Yeah.
That's not how it's all supposed to work. We have done that to ourselves. And so
Yes.
I have fallen into, I mean, I'm in bed 9:30 usually is the latest for me. And so my body wakes up and I am refreshed. I feel good. Like I want to get up. So keep that
Yeah.
in mind. Don't think that you're going to be able to stay up until all hours of the night and then be
Yeah.
on a good path, because that
Mm-mm.
is just as destructive.
Yeah. And that's usually the challenge that people have if they my problem was I was always trying to force myself to go to bed earlier so I could get up earlier, but I never ended up going to bed because I'm like, ooh, everybody else is asleep. I want my alone time.
Right.
So I actually reverse engineered it. I found when I started waking up for sunrise, I was
Yeah.
tired, by 8:30, 9 o'clock. And so I could get to bed at a time that would allow me to wake up for sunrise.
Exactly.
But I always think back to like I'm obsessed with Laura Ingalls and Ma and Pa Ingalls and all that. And so I always think, in the winter in Wisconsin at that little log cabin, when the sun went down, they're not staying
Yeah.
up till 10 o'clock. They're probably maybe an hour or so. And then the lantern gets
Yep.
turned down and they're sleeping for 12 hours,
Right.
however long they do. So this has taught me just to get more in tune with less on a schedule schedule and even the way I eat and all that, and just more in on this like rhythm.
Yeah.
And sometimes I look at it and say, huh, this doesn't feel like it's working anymore. So what do I need to shift? And before I would always look at food and supplements. And now I'm like, what's my light environment like?
Yes.
Have I been missing out on something? Have I been watching TV at night, even with my glasses on, and it's too bright? There's all these little things that can be tweaked that I never even thought about
Yeah.
before.
I love that. Somebody asked a question. Do you think that all women's circadian rhythms work the same? And that same formula works for everybody?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of our bodies are at different levels of health for, like we're the spectrum of like healthy and then out of whack. And so, I think there are certain things that get turned on at certain times, and that kind of works for all of us, right? Like all
Yeah.
of us are going to have an ideal cortisol rises during the day, falls at night, melatonin rises at night, falls. There's certain things that just happen at certain times.
Yeah.
But some of us have been disrupted for so long that that system isn't working.
Right.
But no, this flow of the sun and the different levels of what's being turned on and turned off, that does flow the same for
For
all of
everyone.
us.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
everybody, it doesn't matter. And we spoke specifically for women here, but this is the same for your kids,
Yeah.
for the men in your life. It is the same concept.
Yeah.
And so
If
yeah.
somebody's
So
got a serious health condition that they're really trying to work on, I mean, then, is 15 minutes at UVA and 5 minutes at sunrise going to cut it? And then you probably want to be out there for longer. You want to be bearing, when you can, as much skin as you can. Finally started just like bathing nude in my backyard because I'm like, when was the last time I got sun on that?
yeah,
When was
right.
the last time my breasts saw sun? Even when with digestion, I'm like, wait a minute. I've always worn like a one-piece bathing suit for the last 20 years. When was the last time my belly and my intestines got sunlight beaming onto it? So it's just you start thinking about all these things. You're like, oh wow,
Yeah.
there's this whole world of
Right.
opportunity. Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I love, right? Is that it is free.
Mhm.
It is literally free. And so like you said, if you are struggling with a health condition, yes, you may have to shift some things to make this an intentional priority, but there's no money out of your pocket
Yeah.
to do this and to see if these shifts will help your body reset itself and use what is, the beautiful thing that we have, which is the sun and all of that, and the grounding piece. We didn't even really talk about that much, but grounding so pivotal and so great for the nervous system. And we are not a grounded society because we wear shoes everywhere, right? And so it's
Mhm.
like, yeah. So if you could say, if somebody got outside in their bare feet for 5 minutes a day, would you say that that would be a healthy place to start? Would that be a good place to start? And then what would be the goal on being outside? Obviously, when it's summertime, you're outside probably in your bare feet for several hours, depending, especially when we're on vacation. Like I was just in
Yeah.
Hawaii, and on
Yes.
the beach in the sand, and it was like I slept so good. There was just so much with that. Well, let's take some of those concepts out of vacation,
Mhm.
right? And incorporate them in the daily.
Yeah. The best place to start is just just start,
Yeah.
even if again that's like 30 seconds because it's winter and it's cold. Things like when it's cold out, my dog actually becomes my grounding source
Okay.
because so my dog can stand in the snow. He doesn't
Yeah.
care. So he's grounded. So if I touch like his belly or a spot that doesn't have a ton of fur and I'm touching him and he's grounded, that means I'm grounded. So then like my husband could hold my hand because I'm grounded because the dog is grounded. Now my husband is grounded. So it's kind of like how it works where you'll see people touching leaves or plants that are growing in the ground.
Okay.
That's you can touch it with your hands too, but I just think I know there's so many gadgets. You can buy the shoes and you can buy the gloves. And if people really want to dive deep into grounding, I love Intuition Physician's website. She has
Okay.
amazing, and you can buy grounding rods to see if you're actually grounded. And I'm just like, maybe I'm just getting old school as I get older, but I'm like, to me, there's just something really special about just
Mhm.
like, can I put my bare feet on the ground even though it's cold?
Right.
Like, what?
Simplicity is good.
I
Yes.
mean, I don't know. At some point, maybe I'll buy grounding shoes. But for me, it's more like, but what would happen if I just put my bare feet on the
Right.
ground and was just a little cold for just 2 minutes or so?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something really, I don't know.
Nope.
It's kind of like how do I feel today? Do I feel stressed or do I feel able to do that workout versus what does my aura ring tell me? How am I doing today? It's like
Right.
we've lost that connection to our actual
Hmm.
bodies and just tuning into it.
Yes, you're
So, and
speaking
that's the
my
magic.
love language. I'm like, I can't do the aura ring because I feel like as a perfectionist, I would become obsessed with that. And I don't think that that is good for my nervous system at all. And so,
Yeah.
whatever. No, and no harm, no foul to anybody that, has that and they need to have that for their life. But I'm just saying, yes, at 57, I have learned lots of things in my life where less is more. We are so burdened by all of the things and contraptions. And so, yes, I love the simplicity of this message. So if you take anything away today, it is the simplicity that all of this is available to you for free, except for the blue light glasses that you may
Yeah.
need to spend the $40 and grab those,
Yeah.
spending that
Yeah.
$40.
And you
So,
don't even have to spend the $40, but for most of us living, you'd have to buy candles or you'd have to
right,
live without the lights on and no screens. And most people are like, yeah, that's
right,
not going to work. It
right.
wouldn't work
Yeah,
for me, right? So
exactly.
those, and swapping out a few light bulbs, it can be really, I have a circadian friendly lighting guide because again, that was overwhelming. So many
Right.
options, but I started very slow and I have only swapped out a few lights in our house and we only turn on a few lights now. So it actually
Yeah.
worked great. But the one thing I would just have people notice is if they're having sleep problems, and women are doing so much for sleep, right? So it's like, oh, I'll do my meditation before bed and I'll read in bed and I'll take a bath and but then the lights are all on. So you're doing these things, but the light coming into your brain is totally countering it because it's telling your brain it's daytime, don't go to sleep
Yeah.
because it's daytime. So shifting even having like a red nightlight in your bathroom. So if you do get up to use the bathroom, you're not turning the light on, which is then telling your body, we're back in
Yeah.
daytime, but you're like, well, but no, it's only 2 a.m. and I want to go back to sleep. And your body's like, but that's not what you're telling me with the light that's coming into my eyes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
even just starting out with like red night lights in the bathroom for night and just starting there can be really helpful.
I love it. Okay. Okay. All right, you guys. This we were on an hour. This is amazing. I love it.
It
So,
flew by.
okay.
I
If
love talking about this
no,
stuff.
and I do too. So we will have to do another one another time. But so if you are joining late, you can comment the word sun here. You'll get a link to Christie's site where she's got some freebies there. It talks about her Sunrise Club little course that she has. She has another circadian rhythm course. If you're kind of like, okay, I want more, I want to know more of the background. And then a link to the circadian app as well. That's free. So then you can kind of get in tune with when UVA rise is and all of that. But I'm
Mhm.
so grateful that we carved this time out to chat because I know my audience just wanted more information and I couldn't always be like knew that what I was going to be telling and sharing was spot on. So I really appreciate your the education that you have provided and just your generous heart to come on and share. So thank you so much, friend.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for inviting me on. I feel honored. And this has been
Ah,
such fun. We'll have to
I'm
do it again.
I'm so glad. Yes. So we will definitely do it all outside next time. But it was
Yes,
so
I
bright.
know.
I'm like, I don't know that I could see the screen. So
I know it's snowing and I'm like, but next time, yes, we will.
yeah. All right. Take care, friend.
Bye.
Bye bye.